on. Okay.
Auld Lang Syne, everybody.
Does anybody know the lyrics to that song?
There's got to be a couple of senior citizens in our group.
Yeah, whenever I go to New Year's parties and they play this thing, and I always see like people try to mouth it. But it's like watching really bad lip syncing.
Yeah, exactly. They all know Auld Lang Syne. Okay, great. For
Yeah.
old acquaintance, be
Forgot. Yeah. And bad English.
Really, Queen's English. It's
Impossible to learn. Yeah. It's like one of the things that I just let everyone else sing. It's like and it's weird because I come from a Korean background. My parents, they didn't speak when they got here, and Andrea's going to join us. Wonderful.
Okay.
And so we didn't know they didn't know this stuff. So I never grew up learning any of this. So it's just one of those many things that I just didn't bother learning.
Well, when you don't know the lyrics and you don't know what it means, why the hell would you know how to sing it, right?
Yeah, but I think it's like, isn't it Irish? It's like
I think it's either
Gaelic.
From English, yeah. Yeah, because I know it's Queen's English is the definition of the wording. So I have no idea where it came from.
But it's a great tune. Honestly, it's a wonderful melody. I really like it. It's just I never learned the lyrics.
Listen, when the college football playoffs are on New Year's Eve, I fully expect you to start playing it like during the meet. So go right into New Year's Eve that way.
Hey guys.
There we go.
What exactly are you talking about? What tune was that?
We played Auld Lang Syne or whatever. Yeah.
Auld Lang Syne was his intro today.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's a reason we're just talking about the reason why we don't really know all the lyrics, like Jingle Bells, right? Everyone knows Jingle Bells. We hear this tune all the time, every year. And then you go to these New Year events and they play the tune, and then you look around and it's like people pretending that they know the lyrics, and they're just mouthing it like bad karaoke. So I just thought it was funny, but I was just explaining to him I never grew up with this music because I'm a son of immigrants, and they didn't know this stuff. And it's I think Gaelic or some dialect of Irish or whatever heritage. I'm just proving myself to the entire interwebs my ignorance, but I'll resign to that. I am ignorant about a lot of things. But hey, IoT Coffee Talk followers, welcome. It's so glad to have you. This is the last episode of the year, right? Last episode of the year. That's why I'm picking my ear.
Oh my God.
I noticed something really funny about our episodes. We're so comfortable with each other. Sometimes I think that we forget that we actually stuff. And so we're like going like this. It's almost like we're baseball coaches, coaches on the on the bases orchestrating all the runners. Anyway.
But isn't that why people, view us and listen to us and stuff?
No idea.
Yeah, because we're so natural at it,
Yeah. So, wow. Are you guys looking forward to an awesome 2023?
Always.
It's got to be better, right?
Yeah, always looking forward to a new.
Yeah, it's funny. I was at the beach for sunrise this morning, and I was thinking about that and thinking of, the ending of a year and going on to the next year and sitting there going, like I've had client opportunities. We signed a new client last week. I had a great call just now with a president and CEO and a chief revenue officer of a new opportunity. I think in spite of all the naysayers and all the other idiots that are out there talking about it, you put your head down and you keep on going because, Leonard, you and I are entrepreneurs. I mean, we gotta, we're commission only salespeople every day, and the IoT business gives us that capability. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's all about hard work. I think that's one of the challenges that the technocrats and the techno folks struggle with. And I think, speaking of entrepreneurship, and I mean, that's a great way of thinking about 2023, because everybody has to be resourceful and entrepreneurial. And what I mean by that is looking at opportunities and pursuing them. But, one important part of opportunity is the qualification of opportunities, right? And I think over time, you learn how to do it much better. But I think this year has been a time where, we've had to kind of sharpen our sales pitches, our focus. I think 2023 is going to be the same thing. But like you said, it's like if you have that entrepreneurial experience and that grit, you'll make something happen. And I think it's an important thing that you bring up. Is like it never stops. I mean, for me, now that I'm no longer with corporate, 2023 is just another day. Do you know? And also, my ass is old. So just like, for you, Steve, because, you're the senior statesman, time just tends to go a little bit faster than it used to, and it's a great point that you're making, but it's great that, man, you still keep you're still driving things, making things happen. That's the thing that's really admirable about you, Stephen. We met. I don't know. Geez, when did we meet? We met back in IoT. Where was it? It was IoT World Congress, right? Isn't that where we met? That was like 6 years ago,
at least.
Yeah, and then we met in CES, and we sat in there. You bought me lunch, and then freaking Shaquille O'Neal comes in. Remember that?
I still have that picture of when we were.
Oh yeah. He's a big guy, Andreea. I mean, if you've never ever seen a guy who weighs what, like almost 400 pounds and is 7'1".
Oh, not now. He's on GF9, don't you? He's in better shape now. So.
Yeah. So what's up, Andreea?
Oh, not much. Just coming out of this cold weather in North Texas.
Is it? Oh, yeah. I mean, you guys are like below zero, right? Yesterday we had something like
a lot below zero. So last week, my son and I traveled back to US from Europe, and we had our flight was through Austin.
Oh my God.
And coming out of London, our flight was delayed, nothing to do with weather, just a maintenance issue on British Airways. So we missed every single connection out of Austin. So we realized after 8:30 p.m. there are no flights on American from Austin to Dallas.
Yeah.
This was Thursday, middle of the week. So we got stuck in Austin, and it was extremely cold. And we got back to Dallas the following day, and hoping that nothing was damaged at our house. Our house was empty. My husband was out too. So but everything was fine.
Wow, you're lucky.
It was so cold.
Yeah.
And I'm one, I was raised in a climate with 4 seasons and brutal winters. I remember they don't have those winters in, where I come from anymore, but growing up.
Really?
Mountains of snow, and spent a lot of time outside. And then I lived in Toronto. One of the reasons I moved is I enjoy cold weather, but true cold weather, right? Not just wind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was pretty brutal here, I tell you. But anyway, that's
Is it better now, or is it?
oh yeah. It's much better. It's
Yeah. What is up with this bomb cyclone thing? It's like a word that I didn't even know about before, and it seems like it happens every year now,
Global warming.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. So, what are you looking forward to in 2023, Andrea? I mean, now you're out of corporate as well now, right? And so you
yeah,
have an
and
adventure to look forward to, right?
I've been out of corporate for a year and 3 quarters.
Wow.
A year
Wow.
and 3 quarters. And so what I did is I left um a telecom company, as you know. I I didn't know what I was gonna do. All I knew is that I wanted some time off. And that time off now it's a year and 3 quarters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes by
But
quick, right?
it goes by quick, but it's very quick. You're right. It's been really, really good because it just gave me time to get other perspectives. And you might recall it at an IoT Coffee Talk we had, probably one of my first ones.
Yeah.
What I was saying is I felt like I had lived for 20 something years. That was my career there, with a head in the bucket, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, I knew everything that had to do with wireless telecom, with 5G, with cloud, with whatever business I was in. I knew everything because that was kind of my thing always. Whatever I sell, I have to know it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
whether
believe it. You have to believe it too.
existent, yes, whether it was existent or whether it was up and coming, or whether it was exploratory, sometimes we pitch exploratory solutions, we don't, whether corporate or, well, yeah, mainly in corporate. So I still felt like I had lived with my head in a bucket for many years,
Yeah.
because there was so much outside of that. In terms of relationships, in terms of how to look at things
Yeah.
outside the box. And funny enough, I've thought a lot about this because within the company where I worked, I was always an outside the box thinker. I always wanted to do things differently if they didn't work the way that the company processes were calling for. So it's just I have by nature, and I never wanted to call it innovation mindset because I thought innovation was just much bigger than what I was doing. But in hindsight, it was innovation, right? In terms of how you sell, how you market, how do you implement, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I realized, and a lot of it has happened through talking with you guys. To be honest, no, seriously. A lot has happened talking to you. Sorry, Steve, it was before you joined. Not yeah.
This is all by mistake, okay? I just want to make it clear for everyone. It was completely. We have no idea how this episode is going to end up, but hopefully, we'll have another Andrea out there that's inspired by your story, actually. So, because this is really cool.
Yeah, no, seriously, and of course I knew Rob, as I knew from my work, but I barely knew him. So this is the interesting thing, that you barely know somebody, but you feel like you've known them forever.
Yeah.
Regardless, because he made an impact. So from Rob I met you, and I knew Stephanie from before, and then et cetera, et cetera. So for the next year, I look forward to making a decision, right? What I want to do. I mean, I decided to pivot into digital health.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of learning, I call it, right? A lot of learnings and a lot of thinking. I mean, I have on my mind joining the Founders Institute, right? With my idea. I've had a particular idea for about a year now. And the thing is, I've never been an entrepreneur, and I don't know if it is for
yeah.
I'm more of an idea person. I think of things and I get excited and all that, but to be an entrepreneur is a lot more than that. So I don't know exactly
awesome. Yeah.
what's going to happen, but I look forward to making a decision. Yeah. And if the decision is to wait longer,
well, you know what? You'll probably make the right decision. I think we all, at the end of the day, try to make the right decision. If we're lucky enough, it ends up being as good as we thought. If not, I mean, if it's a wrong decision, we'll find out soon enough, But yeah, you're right. I mean, what you're saying, and this is actually what Steve and I were talking about right before we hit the record button, is entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I learned that the really brutal way, starting my own company. I mean, Steve, you were like freaking there. You were there in the first event that I was at, launching what I thought was going to be next curve. And, now where I am looking back in retrospect, that was a freaking scary ass journey. And, when I do coach people about, because I do get people calling me and, messaging me, so how have you become so successful? First thing I told them was like, how do you know I'm successful? I was like, man, I'm just trying to feed my family is literally what I tell them. It's like, so whatever your perception of me is here, let me tell you what it's like, what my journey is like. I basically tell them, if you come from corporate and you've been sucking on that big old corporate booby for, 2.5 decades like me, this is going to be really scary. It's going to be like, you're going to be like a kid who has not weaned himself off breast milk and all of a sudden you're out on your own. It's really, really tough. It's a different game, and it takes a level of, you have to have a certain mix of skills. And one of them is probably the most important thing is you need to know how to sell. If you don't know how to sell, you are not going to make it.
I mean, I would add, you need to know how to prospect. I think we all know how to sell ourselves and our capabilities and what.
Really? Yeah, you speak for yourself, man.
I don't know. I mean, it's a prospecting thing. I mean, I still spend a lot of time, because you're not going to close every opportunity that comes your way. And so, you and I, and any of us that are kind of, small firms that are in this big fishbowl, showing our differentiation, our value proposition, and why people should go with us and work with us and do things with us because of this and that. The story to sell them on us is not as hard as it is to find, 5-10 prospects to close 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah. Or maybe if it's more than that, but it's just that whole sales process.
Right. How many leads?
Funnel.
How many leads do you get from your website a year?
What do you? No, I get very few. I get most of my leads from actually. I will tell you. I get a lot of leads in general from different channels, but the high quality leads is stuff that actually lead to business face to face.
Yep. Referrals.
That is like literally, it's like boom, they meet you and they go, crap, we're gonna use you, we're gonna hire you.
Yeah.
There's usually a word of mouth element of it, because a lot of my prospects and clients and soon to be clients, they say, well, we know about you. We've seen you. We see what you do. So, hey, let's start working together.
And here's
trigger
why.
is face to face.
Sorry to interrupt you. I wanted to
Metaverse.
step in with something, Leonard. Is you were saying that, people say you're successful, and you go, how do you know I'm successful, right? I'm trying to feed my family, but and then people choose you because people look at the quality of things you produce, right? So Steve and I, maybe Steve does, but I speak for myself. I don't know exactly what kind of work you do, or I don't walk over. I'm not exposed to the output that you do for a particular client, right? Because that's between you and the client. But then when you produce high quality stuff for all of us to read, then we see you as successful.
Yeah.
Plus you have that, wonderful guitar collections. You must be successful.
I've collected that over since I was 16. The blue one, my grandmother.
Yeah, the blue one. I know the blue one.
There's, and then I'm not like some of these other guys who have 50 or 60. And, I like my acoustic, I bought that like 17 years ago, and I don't sell my guitars. I just keep all the ones that I have. And there's a couple that I don't really like, and I still keep them because they look good. But it's not a measure of success.
Something about being an entrepreneur. I wanted to add also, is like I said, and I've worked for a giant corporation, and anybody outside of that corporation, I'm the last. I look the least like an entrepreneur, right? But to people who, because you don't know, you think, you associate people with the environment they worked in. I think it's just normal and it's expected, right? But when you know me and you know what I've done and how I've done things, I look back and I go, boy, I was a lot more entrepreneurial than I would have thought. I never stopped to think about that because I was in a large company and I had a large company behind me. I had resources, right? So you think you don't have a headache when you have resources. But within a companies have structures, right? And they allocate resources in certain fashions. They allocate resources where they see the higher opportunity to win, right? And they see higher opportunity to win with incumbents. Right. Yeah. When you have incumbents like AT&T, the size of AT&T and Verizon, Vodafone, Orange, et cetera, which are huge accounts, you go, everything else is nothing or is peanuts, right? So when you start going after other business, like IoT business, right? Yeah. Or like customers that the company has never had before, like I did in Canada with Bell and Telus. This is when you have to pull out all kinds of new tricks, right? And the trick, since we're sharing, the trick that worked for me in Canada in particular, something I'm really proud of, is openness with the prospects. And no particular person was too low in the rank for me to talk to. I talked to the CTO. I would talk to the CTO down to all the test engineers. It did not matter. What mattered is while my plan was in order to go after that business. So this is when I realized this, listening to you, I realized that there's entrepreneurship in large companies as well, if you want to go that way.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you were selling things, you were supporting sales, and there's an element of developing, having that type of entrepreneurial dynamic that you can play into. The thing is, if you have numbers, that's really sort of what you have to do. But being independent, I guess the thing that makes Steve and myself and others that are of our our kind.
Definitely, yeah.
That's probably a really terrible word to use, but anyways, the entrepreneurs like us, sole entrepreneurs, if you want to put it that way, is there's really no safety net. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what makes this friggin' bungee jumping for like what I was talking about, the corporate teeth. It's nice to have that because you can, you can fall back on that at some point, and you're still getting paid, you're still feeding your family. The thing that is scariest is exactly that. How do you feed your family? And it's all on you.
Yeah, and you can tell the people that can't even fathom going after it. So I've talked to a couple of people over the last week or so that have been let go by carriers in their IoT clips, right now. So, and then when I talked to them the other day, knowing that they were, out of jobs in 2 days at the end of the year, 3 days, I said, "What are you thinking of doing? I mean, you've been in the industry for 20 something years. What are you thinking of doing?" He goes, "Well, I'm looking at, getting another job in another carrier, or I'm going to, something like that." So, having been in a carrier situation for 20 something years, they have no other idea as to how to go out doing on their own, or putting up their own shingle and going out and competing in a consultative role. So, so you're right. I mean, there's some of these people that are just like, I gotta have the medical benefits. I got to have the packages. I got to have the travel expenses. I got to have all these things because I don't know any better. I've been having it for 20, 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And, having been in that situation, making that transition, right. It feels, like there's this huge abyss that you're facing in front of you. It's like, and people will know what I'm talking about. It's a very, very dark place.
Yeah, but I think we are blessed to be in an industry, and I've said this to you, and definitely in conversations with many clients and prospects. We are blessed to be in an industry, and I'm going to say the IoT industry in general, where we are still a very relevant part of the technology, and we are still able to solve people's problems. And and I've said this before that, today has never been a better day to be in the IoT space, because you can, if you look at the Amazon working backwards theory, we have all of the working backwards things to solve a customer's problem in our industry, right? I mean, the sensors and the edge boxes and the applications and the cloud and the platforms and the security, all that stuff is there. There's a lot of technology in the spaces that don't have all that stuff and don't have it readily available. And so I think people will continue to look at us in a consultative selling model of being able to provide them with services that they need. And so I look forward to 23. I think that it still continues to be, regardless of the economic bullshit and all the other stuff, our government wants to tell us about. I think when it boils down to the fact that we are able to be in an industry that is constantly changing, that constantly solves people's problems, that constantly is cost effective, that is exciting and changing and challenging at the same time. Geez, how could you not be excited about an industry like this? I mean, I don't get it. So,
Andreea, see, this is why this guy is such an awesome sales guy. Yeah.
I'll send you the contract later.
Yeah.
So what's going on in the IoT world of the last couple of weeks that I haven't been able to join?
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
What's going on in the IoT world?
Oh,
last couple of weeks I haven't been able to join.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. There's been a ton of things. Nothing pops to mind. I don't know why. Steve, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, I think some of the end of the year issues around supply chain. I think some of the things that have happened at Tacoma and Portland with the grid blowing up the electrical stations. A lot of conversations I've had with utility related groups have been, how could we have known this? And I sit there and go, do you have any sensors on the fence line? How about putting IoT sensors on the fence line around a substation? I mean, how freaking stupid is this? Oh, we're thinking about putting cameras in all them. Okay, an IP camera is $67. You can put this damn thing in there with a 4G module and send it back and be able to see this stuff. So I think, so that's been a part of the discussion. And the people that are going to CES in the space are just so excited to see some of the new technology that's coming out in IoT world related to, appliances and digital health. And, Andreea, I mean, you're looking at digital health, there's no better place than CES. I mean, it's just.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's what we have. We've been actually talking a lot about next year.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, yeah. I don't know. My mind is drawing a blank. I don't know why. This is like crazy. And the funny thing is, I'm not going to edit this out. This is something I should edit out.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Damn it.
Yeah, when something just crossed my mind when I was scanning my emails this morning, I had an email from Transforma Insights talking about what their top 10 reports 2022 were. And out of 10, 5 were related to IoT.
Right, exactly.
And the other 5 were not another bucket. They were different things, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, but you also, when you look at the first one around the forecast, I mean, the numbers are freaking stupid. I mean, it still continues to be, 30 billion connected devices by 2030. And then when you look at the engine,
I know.
I mean, how do you?
That's something I thought about a lot since I left my corporate job, because in that corporate job we always looked at forecasts, and there were forecasts issued by the company that I worked for and by similar others, Cisco's and the giant ones. And when a company like that issues forecasts, they do it based on a lot of research. I mean, at least I speak for.
Right. You would hope they do.
there was a lot of research, and there was also an arm of the company that had to do with consumer insights.
Right.
So that's all they did. And yet we saw the 50 billion devices by 2020 and all those things that, at the time in 2010, I remember looking at that and thinking, I don't know whether to believe that, but hey, somebody much bigger than me.
Yeah.
So I think I should believe it.
We've had such an increase of people coming into our industry because of those numbers.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You're exactly right.
But
and worse. When I saw prospects and even initial existing customers, sometimes the presentations I made, they're always, most of the time, forward-looking, new releases, new technologies, new things. It was customary to start with forecasts and start with things like this. And I was always reluctant. So I do a lot of thinking now in hindsight. I was so reluctant. I felt like, when I talk about this forecast, and I don't know how to present them to make them believable. I remember that. I so vividly remember that. And a lot of times I said, you know what, to heck with it. I'm not going to put forecasts. And, if I don't look cool because I'm not putting this forecast, so be it.
Actually, you in 2030, you're going to look really friggin' cool, because you were probably you insulated yourself from being grossly incorrect. And no, this is true. So we talk about this on the show all the time. That's why you never see me or anyone else, I don't think, even mention these forecasts, because they have been a disservice, and that's something we have to be very honest about.
Good way to put it.
It's not just people coming into the industry, Steve. It's money, resources coming into something that really fundamentally was not there, and that it's based on narratives where people didn't do the hard work to make anything remotely close to these numbers happen, because they thought it was just going to be there. Now,
That's right.
If you go and you look at, I have probably talked to at least 1,000 startups in the IoT space, and at least 95% of the time I tell them, we already did this shit in IT.
Exactly.
You're not coming up with anything
new.
new.
Nothing value proposition.
Yeah, this is basic stuff.
Right.
Anyone can pull this stuff out of their ass that came from that did middleware back in the 80s and 90s. This is not rocket science that you're bringing to the table.
Right.
You know, I mean, even like a lot of the device management stuff, the network management stuff, this is old school. It's like old ass stuff. But
I had a conversation.
Some of these people don't recognize, or they ignore the fact that we've done this stuff. It's already been there, and you know, it's too easy to do. And I think one of the things is it really has been these forecasts have been a disservice, and you should kick the tires on them. Don't believe them. There's no reason to. I mean, who the hell can forecast anything out 10 years?
I can't do it a year.
20 years. There's some that go out like 20 years. It's like, you really want to make that bet?
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about that, because I'll give you, I would like to have a couple of bucks for every time someone over the last 2 years has told me that, well, batteries are going to last 10 to 12 to 15 years in a sensor, so I can predict that recurring revenue for the next 10 years on my forecast. I'm like going, are you out of your freaking mind?
Yeah.
Seriously, who told you that battery is going to last 10 years? Who told you that that's the configuration for the data exchange that you're going to be communicating, and the battery requirements to send that data over 4G? Come on, so there's a lot of that stuff going on. And then even yesterday, I had a conversation with a VC firm with his client who was looking for $1 million for a Bluetooth accelerometer sensor and mobile app. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're calling me to what? Get my opinion on this? Seriously, tell me what your differentiation is. Well, I have 2 patents on this. People don't buy patents. Tell me how you're going to sell 1 million of these. Tell me how you're going to sell 1 million of these.
And
well,
that's
sell 1 million. Yeah, no shit. And then he had no recurring revenue model. I'm like going, have you talked to anybody? It's like, so you do get these kinds of situations. So you sit there and go, oh my God. You have a Me Too product with no value proposition, nothing that differentiates you.
No, right.
And you want my help?
But what they've done, and this, more often than not, you go and you look at their business plan, their pitch deck, they quote a huge number for the TAM. Right. And I always have to ask them, where'd you get that? And then they take the biggest number that they saw in any report, and they do some simple math to say we will eventually become a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah, because I'm going to have 3% of the market share.
Really?
$30 billion. Yeah.
And then I say, so this is the report that you took it off of. Here, let me just go over the breakdown of the segmentation of the numbers that underneath that big number that you have. And then they go, oh, I was like,
do me a favor. Go back. Yeah, you know what? You should have used the ABI report from 5 years ago that said it was going to be 75 billion. Your business would have been worth more money.
Yeah, and it takes the focus off. It gives entrepreneurs a false sense of comfort that there's a market for what they're doing, and that is tragic. Because going back, and this is wonderful that we're talking about entrepreneurship. Because it's scary enough for entrepreneurs to sit there, especially if they come from corporate, to get off of the corporate T. It's a huge risk that these people take because they have to feed their friggin' families. But then they look at these numbers and they think, oh, well, I'm going to be rich. So they go in with this simple idea, which is probably 90% or more not viable in the market because there is no market for this stuff. And they go out and then they stake everything in this, and then they lose everything.
Yep.
I mean, you tell me that's not detrimental and toxic. I think it is.
Yeah.
And then all that capital, all that focus, all that entrepreneurial focus could have gone to something.
Exactly.
Move the ball, right?
That money. Yeah.
Yeah. And then look at all the SPACs, the DeFi, the crypto crap, friggin' all the tech narrative. I mean, there's a reason why these quote unquote tech companies are imploding. It's because they've been talked up so much. There's people creating these not so substantial or narratives around these companies, these things, these markets that inflate them. And then people get hurt, and it's usually the smaller guys. The bigger guys, they end up they jump into lifeboats before the women and children can even get in. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the SPAC scenario. I mean, when you look at like a Core Wireless that hit a new low yesterday, ever since they did the SPAC deal, even though they got the money and there's a solid company and doing, from a revenue standpoint, the market hates it that they're part of the SPAC, right? And it's just ripping them apart.
Yeah.
Then I had another guy yesterday. He's got 65 helium miners out in the marketplace, and he's kind of hemming and hawing. I'm like going, what did you want? I mean, you're a coverage network with no data going through it.
Yeah.
The money's in the data, knuckleheads. So either you jump out now and put them in a friggin' closet, or you sit there and go long term. It's going to be a LoRaWAN nationwide network around helium, and you're going to be able to send data through it, and you'll make it off of LoRaWAN money. So so don't be so stupid, but you're naive because you're thinking that this is a get rich quick scheme.
Yeah. And I guess that's why at the end of the day, all of this becomes so hard. But I think the weapon that you can take into this fight is clarity of thought and mind, because then you don't expose yourself to all the risks that are out there. And think about all the people who invested in cryptos and all the nonsense out there. There's a lot of nonsense. And how much
clarity of mind is hard to achieve on your own, right? There's Kool-Aid everywhere, right? And there's meditation everywhere. So I think everybody needs a sounding board. Or like a solid group of
IoT Coffee Talk.
Yeah,
you need the IoT asshole to say that. You know what? I don't think so, and then prove it.
Damn it.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's exactly what I was thinking, because as people listen to this, we're not just here to be cynical.
No.
We might appear so, but that's not the purpose, right? And we come from different backgrounds, and we're in different states, and we have various thought processes. And there are just 3 of us here today, but a lot of times there are 5, 6 of us, and there are others that don't participate all the time, right? So talking to us about forecasts and about entrepreneurship, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
More can come out. We're coming out with what's top of mind for us here. But advice.
Yeah, I mean, those are excellent points, and the point that we try to make, and I think this is the best outcome of our rant, is ask better questions. Just ask questions. Don't believe.
Well, reach out to people that know.
Reach out to people. Don't be afraid. And here's when you were talking about that debacle, what was it, in Portland? And you were asking them if they had sensors on the fences and all that. As I listened to you, I thought to myself, okay, if I were in Steve's shoes, I probably wouldn't have asked that question, because I would have thought that obviously they have sensors on fences, because they should have thought about that on their own. And if I ask them, it's kind of a silly question. And it's kind of like, what value do I bring asking such a silly question? But look at that, right? No, I'm serious. I was thinking here. I'm not making it up. And here you go. Steve asked a question and got a surprising answer that, created a next steps, probably more than likely, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it rolled off of my tongue, Andreea, because I've been doing this so damn long that I'm sitting there. The first thing I think about is, well, if you had a sensor on the fence, don't you think you would have known that someone cut the lock and opened up the fence and tie it directly to 911, and someone would have come there and maybe stopped them before they shot up the transformers? I mean, and I'm not the smartest dude in the world, but you're asking me about what you could have done or could do moving forward. So this is technology that's available today. This is not rocket science, right? I mean, this is a accelerometer, motion sensor on a fence tied to a 4G LTE unit, bending it back with a baseline application that you look up on your phone and you go, oh shit.
Straightforward.
Someone knocked down the fence at my substation located at these coordinates. I guess I better go out there and see what the hell happened.
And by the way, for IoT Coffee Talk folks who watch it, we're not being dramatic because we're laughing at people. We're being dramatic to make a point.
Right.
You obviously think
of how to use this technology in a very
we're being shock jocks.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't want the grid to go down either, right? I don't want 15,000 people to be without power in the middle of the winter. I mean, because some freaking bunch of idiots decided to, be radical and shoot out a power substation. I mean, I hate that crap.
Oh my, yeah, that's crazy.
But I'm also looking at it from a preventative standpoint, because we have a grid that if it goes down for all of us, we're screwed.
Yeah.
Right? And
and people die.
Right. And if IoT can in any way, shape, or form help the industry and help us as citizens feel safer, that's what IoT is all about. So I look at it and go, why didn't you think of this, you idiots?
He's angry. Well, he's upset.
Because when you look at IoT 101, asset tracking, right? Asset management, knowing where your things are, knowing if your fence got destroyed, knowing where your pallet is, knowing where your watch is, and knowing where your mother is, and knowing where your kids are. I mean, it's just 101 stuff, and it's just like, pick up the phone and ask us.
Yeah. People don't know. People don't know.
Yeah, they don't. Exactly.
And, anyway, there's but like to Andrea's point, none of this stuff, especially a guy like you, Steve, who's been in the game for so long, it sounds like common sense, but it's not. It's, there's a lot of that uncommon common sense problem out there, right? And but there's certain things that you can do, basic things that you can do, that can not only improve your clarity, but also give you the perspective on what's possible. And that's what can kind of move the ball, right? And help people leverage quote unquote IoT, whatever the hell that is, to do all the things that you're talking about, tracking your grandma and all that stuff, which is important, remote healthcare and remote patient monitoring. I mean, that's like killer stuff, right? Yep. All that stuff that you're getting into, Andreea. But it goes back to, again, for me, it's, I think I remember why I have such an aversion for BS is because I was always, in my consulting days, the cleanup guy. When a partner sold something that had no idea what to deliver on.
Now we're learning.
When a project manager, there was a project manager that created a bad situation, I was the guy who went and cleaned everything up. That was literally what I was known for. And that's why I have an aversion for it. I think it's just like, don't sell what you can't deliver on. And the other thing is, if you're going to deliver with excellence. Because I used to do a lot of the project, what they called delivery excellence coaching, as well as audits, and then more often than not, we found a problem project, I would have to fix it. They would put me in there to make all the stuff happen. And so, you know, when I started to look at what happens with strategy in the research world, and you look at these big numbers and what happens to entrepreneurs and when they drink the Kool-Aid and stake everything, this stuff really bothers me. Do you know what I'm saying? Because going back to what I was saying, I see a lot of damage being done to people, their lives, and then it also is value destruction. It's not value creation. And that's why whoever's listening, just, you know, don't believe everything that you hear. And what I'm really heartened by is the fact that nowadays, when you see someone go up there and start flowing these big numbers, you can tell they're nervous about mentioning it, and you hear a lot less about it, because anyone that puts that stuff up, they're gonna have to deal with eye rolls in the audience, because hopefully there's going to be a growing number of people who sits there and are going to want to ask, well, how'd you come up with that? Who gave you that number?
Right.
Because you know, people don't even ask who gave you those numbers, even though you say, oh, it's from XYZ research firm or consultancy. But more and more people are asking that question. And that's the first process in getting into clarity, because if you know what I know about these numbers, and there's there could be a huge consulting business just helping customers kick the tires on all the, you know, that's the right. Kool-Aid out there. You would not believe any of these numbers ever. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And I always ask, so have you talked to potential buyers? Have you done a survey? Have you been to been a educated consumer and done, you know, secret shopper scenarios at Best Buy and Apple stores and things like that? I mean, it's just amazing that people come up with these numbers based on people that provided numbers that have never been in the street. I've never sold any of these IoT things before. No, so no. How do you can't believe these numbers. You've got to go out there and figure it out yourself. I mean, I will tell you again, I can sell more IoT stuff and home automation stuff at Best Buy and Apple than any kid in a t-shirt.
Yeah. And going back to how tough it is to be an entrepreneur and actually make business happen, it's tough. The rest of everyone else is trying to, you know, are chasing big numbers and sending off of VC money, you know, which is evaporating. And this is how it's playing out. You know, this is how it is truly playing out.
And people hate when I say these in my speeches that, you know, still the U.S. marketplace is made up 80-90% of all businesses are small, medium-sized businesses. So how are you going to take your IoT solution thing, and sell it to an SMB?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about doing that. Okay, so you're only going to go to enterprise, right? You're going to go only that way. Well, yes, the most money. Okay.
Sorry. there are already companies
doing that.
Yeah, and and they're pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And the whole
a conversation I had yesterday with the little Bluetooth tag guy goes, well, I want to bring this into hospitals and nursing homes. Okay, so have you been talking to any of the private equity firms? Goes, well, no. Why would I do that? Because they own 95% of all the nursing homes and hospitals that are out there.
That's right.
Oh. Okay, I'll send you an invoice. You send me.
This guy. Anyway, wow, what a way to cap off 2022.
Well, are we going to do this live next week from CES? What do you think?
Yeah, we can. Are you going? Are you going? Yeah. You're going, I know. Oh, you're not? What's your next big thing?
Not planned yet.
Not planned?
No, as far as conference or gathering, no, I haven't planned anything yet.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
hopefully
just
we'll
for
see.
personal reasons, because I go back and forth to Romania quite often, as you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and you have a beautiful, beautiful house there. It's always
yeah, you like that.
jump in. Yeah, when you jump in from Romania, it's like really, really cool.
Everything is old. Everything is very old. So I would say
Yeah.
maybe I do have something planned, but it's far out. Is in May. You're just getting together with an innovator community from
Yeah.
which is led out of the Netherlands, and I meet with them a couple of times a year
Yeah.
in person, and we do a lot of innovation labs
Yeah.
and things like that. You could say I do it for fun because I really, really, really enjoy. But at some point, it's going to be for another purpose. So I'm getting together with them in Lisbon, in Portugal, in May.
Yeah.
That's far out enough to where I say, okay,
Wow.
I target.
Yeah. I keep hearing Lisbon and Portugal more and more these days, and I think
It's
everyone's
very, very
going
nice.
to just move there, and then they're going to hate everybody because they're going to jack up the prices of real estate and everything else. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I hear a lot of great things about Portugal.
So both of you are at CES next week?
Yeah. So yeah, we'll do it live from CES. We'll have to change the time because I'm flying in. It's gonna be pretty mad. I have a lot.
Me too.
I'm gonna try to get done. So, what was I gonna say? I had a really great thought, and then it just completely escaped my mind here. Oh yeah. So, there it goes again. I forgot it. Is this what getting old is like, Steve?
Oh no, it gets worse.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I can use Asia as an excuse only when it affects here.
Well, okay, so we're going to end on a positive note because Andreea thinks that we crap bombed the entire episode with negativity. So, hey, you know what we want to tell our audience here as we close out in 2022 is just, hey, focus on value. This is what we preach. We've been preaching for 3 years on this program, and what many of us have been preaching even before. I mean, this is basically the foundation of our talk show here, is that we want to get people to have the value conversation and not participate in the nonsense. Because to your point, Steve, that you brought up earlier, if you focus on delivering value and you see that opportunity to do it, you won't care about the forecast. It doesn't matter. It matters not at all. Okay. And if anything, you're going to be dealing with things and dynamics that are going to be more truthful than any set of assumptions that a forecaster or analyst puts together. And that's because you are working with clients to make something happen. And the people who make the forecast, they have no clue what you're doing. And that's why they don't matter. It's if you're going to go out and play the IoT game, solve problems.
Exactly.
Create value. That's it. But why is it so hard? Ask yourself in 2023. And with that, have a wonderful 2023. And let's make IoT and everything else a lot better, clearer, and valuable for everyone. Right?
Yeah,
and so remember to like, subscribe, comment, react, and let us know what you think. And we will see you next year.
Next year.
Yeah, at CES live.
Yay.
www.iotcoffeetalk.com. And before we sign off, remember to donate. Consider donating to Elevate Our Kids at www.elevateourkids.org to make your contribution in helping to bridge the digital divide for children in underserved and unserved communities. So let's do something to help and put our money where our mouths are, because we like to talk about digital divide and inclusion and all this ESG stuff, but I don't see a lot of evidence of it actually happening. So anyways, think about it. You'll feel good. Trust me. All right, guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Feel good.
Take care.
All right. See you next week.
See you.